Marley from the Energy Boutique with your energy and ascension forecast for Sunday, June 8th to Saturday, June 14th. Okay, so last week was quite the banger of the week. Of course, we wasted no time jumping into June, and with that new vibration, that new frequency, we were all pressurized up in that headspace. Of course, we're still very much in Gemini season, very much in this Mercurial ruled time, with Mercury being the ruler of Gemini season, let alone being in Gemini energy himself. That definitely got amplified with that first quarter moon popping off in Virgo energy on the 2nd. That, of course, is ruled over, yep, you guessed it, by Mercury. So we were all up in the headspace. There's been a lot of negative narratives popping off. There's been a lot of choice points that many of us are not feeling comfortable with at this particular juncture. We knew that things were going to get intensified and amplified as we kind of got closer to the solstice that is just around the corner. We're going to be talking about that in just a second. Of course, if you're with me here Friday evening in the chat, thank you so much for being here, for tuning in, for sharing your time, your energy, your presence with us here in this community. But we also have Venus, the goddess of love, beauty, worth, pleasure, and money, shifting into her rulership in Taurus energy here today, which is definitely going to give us a little bit of earth energy back in that elemental energy profile that we have been lacking. That earth energy grounds us, anchors us into the present moment. And with all this air energy swirling around, we can use all the earth energy we can get. Now, Venus, being the goddess of love, beauty, worth, pleasure, and money, she's had quite a time through her retrograde, through that Aries and Pisces energy. She spent a lot of time building herself up. This dark feminine energy has been rising. That's why we're all kind of spicy. We have a new sense of self-worth, of self-confidence, of self-esteem. We have new values and new wants, needs, and desires that we are very anxious, ready to pursue. So although we have ants in our pants, although we definitely want to see major changes and transformations in our physical realm, especially where routines, relationships, money matters are concerned, this Taurus energy is going to bring us back into the present moment. Make us really see where we have to have the attitude of gratitude, where we have to, again, allow our physical senses to navigate what feels best for us. This is about slowing down. This is about getting heart aligned, reminding ourselves who it is that we are, what it is that we want, how we're going to go about doing that, and where it is that, again, we have to cut the cord, we have to detach, we have to disconnect with the old in order to create space for the new. Now, we also have been finishing out, whether you realized it or not, Mercury and Jupiter's time in this Gemini energy. We are definitely going to have a banger of a day here tomorrow on the 7th and kind of edging us into the 8th. We'll talk about that as we get into it here. But Mercury has been in his rulership. We knew it was going to be a buzz. We knew that time was going to accelerate. We knew that the headspace was going to be a pressurized system. We knew that we were going to have new information and details come out of the woodwork in order to challenge our old ideas, our old perspectives. And with Jupiter finishing up his year transit in this Gemini energy, again, growing and expanding upon our mental plane, pushing us into new levels of awareness, of consciousness, pushing us into kind of breathing new life into old ideas, challenging our old perspectives and understanding, we are bringing it to an end. So that leads me to talk about what we got going on this week. Mercury and Jupiter are going to conjunct at the 29th degree of this Gemini energy, and this is going to be the last time that they meet up in this Gemini energy for 12 years. The 29th degree of any sign is going to put us in a crisis mode, at a breaking down, breakthrough type of mode. And because this is the mental plane being kind of, I'm going to say, magnified by Mr. Jupiter, there's definitely going to be this extra oomph of added pressure on that headspace. And of course, all of this is taking place because Mercury is moving into Cancer energy shortly after that conjunction. And that is where our intellect and our intuition get time to kind of blend together. We've been all up in the headspace, not really counting in our emotions, our intuition. Of course, that Cancer energy is going to have us factoring in that important part of things prior to Jupiter shifting into this Cancer energy here on the 9th. And so we are kind of set, prepared to move into this next chapter that we are going to be experiencing for this next year. We haven't been in this Cancer energy for 12 years, and with all the other placements set up in cardinal energies, we are going to be in for a big, huge growing pain. Now, I know that's not what you want to hear, but we have Saturn, Neptune, fresh in this Aries energy. We have Jupiter and Mercury moving into Cancer energy pretty much together. And as you know, Aries and Cancer energy are both cardinal signs, giving us this square, giving us this tension point, this inner conflict, if you will, that is going to be projected out into the world. We are going through major growing pains because the foundation and structure of not only our inner realm, but our outer realm is about to change in a big, huge way. So, of course, that sounds like a lot. And you know what? That is a lot, but it's not all we got going on here this week. These changes are taking place prior to the 11th, which happens to be our full moon in Sagittarius energy. So you want to talk about a breakdown before a breakthrough. You want to talk about a new perspective, a new truth, a deeper meaning, a higher purpose. That is all going to come to the forefront. Under this full moon in Sag, it is going to push us into new foreign territory. Definitely push comes to shove, and we're standing in the midst of a crossroads at this particular point in the calendar where things are getting, I'm going to say, so pressurized that, again, many of us are just at our wits' end. We knew it would be because we're wrapping up the final full week of Gemini season. We will be moving into the solstice here very shortly, and we are also wrapping up the last full week of Mars in Leo energy. And so we have to expect that as Mars kind of gets to those final degrees of that Leo energy, specifically sitting on the 29th degree as of the 15th, we are definitely going to see a lot of frustration, a lot of anger kind of rise up on the grander global stage and in our own individual lives. The action point is coming into fruition. It's coming into an activation point for sure. And we are going to feel our energy just jumping around within us. We are going to have the most extreme situation and circumstance of ants in our pants that we have felt in a very long time. And considering the fact that this week we also have Venus and Pluto squaring off, this is the major pivot point of our heart space that we have been building kind of in and through since Venus went through her retrograde. There's going to be a major restructuring of our worth, of our values, and how that inner realm kind of gets projected and manifested in the physical realm. And again, you know, Mercury's going to square off with Saturn and Neptune. Jupiter's already within a loose orb of that square as well. And the moon, of course, is going to take us from Scorpio energy at the beginning of this week into Aquarius energy at the ending of the week, which, of course, is a huge section of the zodiac wheel that is not favored by most people, mostly because that Scorpio energy is the shadow work that many of us run from, avoid, if you will, the change, the transformation that has to take place in our inner realm, in our emotion, in our soul space, in order for the actual change in our physical realm to be able to manifest. And of course, we move through the Sagittarius energy that gives us that full moon. We move into the Capricorn energy, which is definitely going to rattle the foundation and structures in our lives. And then Aquarius energy is going to give us a little bit of an emotional detachment in order to act as the observer and see where it is that we are resisting making some of the changes that we know that we need to make. So it is going to be a bumpy week. I'm not going to try and sugarcoat it. That would just be a disservice to, all of us here. We're definitely going through it. But when we go through it, we grow through it. And as long as you can kind of stay focused on the end goal, on the prize, and surrender and be flexible enough to kind of adapt to the changes, to the curveballs, to the wild card energies being thrown at you, you should be okay. But we're definitely going to be triggered and activated along the way. So we have to expect some intense ascension symptoms to pop off with all of the energy coming at us here this week. And before I jump into what all of those ascension symptoms will likely be, I have a couple of things on my list that I would like to talk about. Of course, I want to kick things off with a huge thank you. I want to thank you for being here. I want to thank you for liking, for sharing, for commenting, for dropping those beautiful emojis in the comment section below. I want to thank you for the continued love and support, especially here on the YouTube channel that is, still trying to keep its head above water. I thank you so much for being here. I also want to thank those of you that have jumped over to Patreon, because that's where the energy is at. That's where the community is at. That's where the information is at. That's where all of the good things are at. That is where the healing is at. And I really welcome you to jump over to Patreon if you're not over there already. I want to thank you for that love and support to my VIPs. And here's the biggest thank you of all. I want to thank those of you that took the pre-order for my book to heart, that got them one of 33 limited edition hard copies out into the world. Yes, they're all out in the mail. There are only 33 that I literally touched with my own hand. If you receive a book, please flip to the very last page in the book. There should be a number on the back of the book. That's how you know that you have one of the limited edition copies. Thank you, thank you, thank you for the love and support to my VIPs who pre-ordered that book, who also got that limited edition numbered sequence in the back of the book, and who also reserved a spot in the upcoming mini course that I've created to accompany the information in that book as well. And so the love and support that I have been feeling over the course of this week, releasing my book, has been so overwhelming. I, again, cannot thank you enough for that love and support. And if you're wondering, well, how come I didn't get an opportunity to get dibs on those limited edition numbers? Well, it's because you're not over on my Patreon. My Patreon VIPs get first dibs on everything. They get the deals, they get the insight, they get the connection, they get the communication, they get everything. That's why I'm trying to get everybody to come over to my Patreon. Now, that being said, my book is now available both in paperback copy through Amazon and digital copy. And you can find all of those links on my website. So even though it's going to be Amazon sending you that book, you can find all of those links, all of that information on my website. When I open up some more seats for my mini course, I will make that open and available to everyone, to the public as well. But those that got in on that pre-order, you already got a seat. So again, more information coming at you over the next couple of weeks. I'm waiting for all of those books to arrive to all of their new homes around the world. I thank you so much for being able to share my wisdom, my knowledge, my information, my experience, my time, my energy, my presence with people around the world, to have a huge stack of physical books that I literally did not think I would ever hold in my hand, because I'm a hardcore procrastinator. Been working on this series for like 15 years. So yeah, kind of a big deal. But to be standing with all like a huge box of books that I'm literally mailing out to people all over the world, I cannot even tell you the weight that has had on my heart. Weight as in a good way. Like, this was a huge momentous type of occasion for me. So to see that something that I created, brought in, manifested into physical form, into this world, and to have people that actually want to acquire that wisdom and knowledge and be a part of it, and to actually be able to send it to some very, very interesting locations all over the world, could not be happier, could not be more grateful. I thank you so much for that. So if you're interested on kind of, getting that first book in the series in your hands, either paperback or digital copy, head to my website. you'll find it there. And I thank you so much for the love and support on that very exciting, monumentous occasion for me over this past week. And thank you to those who were a part of it. Now, I talked about moving into the solstice energy here very shortly. Of course, we're moving into the solstice here next week. Well, not next week that we're talking about right now, but the next week. We're talking June 20th to be specific. But we knew that Gemini season was going to accelerate, and we knew that we were going to be divided, and we knew that we were going to be challenged, and we knew that there was going to be a lot more information to come out to challenge old thoughts, ideas, perspectives, opinions, and behaviors. And we're in it, and we're going to be more in it as we move through the course of this week. The reason why I'm saying all this and setting it up is because, of course, I've already offered this special service to my Patreon VIPs, but now I'm opening it up to y'all. If you want a mid-year check-in, a solstice reading, so technically we are halfway. We're reaching that halfway point, the end of June, moving into July, or the half point of 2025, the year of 9. So now would be a great time to get a check-in on your chart, where it is that you're at, the astrology that you got working for you and against you for this next chapter. But it also marks, the solstice in particular, the second quarter of the astrological wheel calendar that we're moving in. And so, from Aries to Cancer season, that's the first quarter. From Cancer season to Libra season, when we hit that equinox, that's the second quarter. From the equinox in Libra season to the winter solstice in Capricorn season, that's the third quarter. And Capricorn season to Aries season, of course, is that fourth quarter. That's when we begin again. So if you're interested and you want a little bit of a check-in, definitely have special pricing for you. Jump over to my website, check out the service at the top, the service tab at the top of the screen, and you will be able to reserve yourself a spot. Now, there was limited spots. My VIPs got the first dibs on those spots. So if you are interested, please do not delay. Jump over, reserve your spot before they are all gone. The last thing on my list to talk about is, of course, I mentioned that we have a full moon coming at us here this week. If you do not have the new moon Gemini manifesting moon guide in front of you, I'm going to recommend you do that, because we're reaching the peak precipice, the climactic point of this lunar cycle with the full moon in Sagittarius. And of course, if you do not have the June energy guide downloaded and available and in front of you, you're going to want to do that as well. We have Mercury on the move, Jupiter on the move, the full moon in Sagittarius, and of course, we're wrapping up Mars's time in Leo energy. We are wrapping up Gemini season, and it would be highly recommended, highly advisable that you get your shit together, that you get in alignment, that you do the work, and that you stay ahead of the game. So all of those resources are there and available for you to jump in and start doing the work and change your life by, first and foremost, changing your mind. And we're in Gemini season, so there's no better time to change your mind than now. So with all of that being said, let's jump into some Ascension symptoms that we can expect for this week. And I would say that I'm going to go on a little bit of a mini rant, but I don't consider it a rant because I'm not giving any time, energy, or effort to it. I did have a couple of people reach out and ask me my thoughts on this whole Elon Trump thing. And I have had the same thoughts that I've had for God knows how long, which is, this is all fake. This is all scripted. This is all a show. This is all a movie. And if you are actually falling for the fact that you think that this is real and that this is reality, then I am sorry, my friend. You have a lot of work to do to continue to awaken. You have to use your discernment. Anybody can see through this. Please do not be fooled by the theatrics of the greater, grander global stage. There are a lot more important things going on in the world that they are trying to distract you from. This is 100% been a script. This is 100% a plot in order to distract you from some very, very, very important things going on. And if you're not aware, then I don't know what you're doing. Right? You're focused on the wrong things, and it's very disheartening to again see, because, there is a very important pivotal marker that was supposed to be met here this week that was not. And that to me screams that we again did not successfully align with the right timeline. Now, I'm not going to get into it. If you've been with me for any amount of time, you would know my feelings on that already. And I know those of you out there that are cut from the same cloth and have the same level of awareness as, well, similar as I do, then you know what I'm talking about. And there's no need to explain any further. The last thing that I want to do is give any time, any energy to the absolute shit show going on the greater, grander global stage. I will not do it. I will not feed into it. So that is all I have to say about that. Let's actually talk about some important things, which is the evolution of our DNA, of our soul, of our spirit, of the physical realm, and of humanity. And that's what these ascension symptoms are doing, is pushing us on, moving us forward, expanding our consciousness, putting us in a situation where we can choose to do things differently, because newsflash, we've lived this life before. We have made similar choices and have failed miserably before. And we are coming down to crunch time where if we do not change, if we do not transform, if we do not choose differently, we are going to be repeating the same shit show over and over again, which I, for one, do not want to do. So again, not trying to be a Debbie Downer here, but we are failing miserably. And I definitely would really enjoy seeing people kind of, boss up and realize that the burnout that you're experiencing right now, this I don't give an F, just let the world end kind of vibe, is absolutely playing into their grand scheme of things. They want you depleted. They want you defeated. And if you're in that situation, then you need to double down and boss the F up. Okay. The light that they are trying to dim in you is working, obviously. And we need to do everything that we can in order to make sure that our light stays strong, regardless of what goes on out in the physical realm. So that being said, we're coming into a semi-difficult week, I would say, just because there's a lot of changes, a lot of transitions. And of course, all of it is still happening under Gemini season energy, which let's just talk right out of the gate about the headspace. Now, we are nearing the latter degrees of Gemini season, which means that we should be orienting to choosing, deciding, leaning towards one path, one decision over the other. Now, I know that Gemini season is very dualistic, very polarized, in good nature, it's supposed to be. But the negative narratives that many of us have been stuck in, the old habits, the old ways of thinking, they got to go and they got to give. And we are at a very important crossroads time here this week where push comes to shove. And if push comes to shove and you choose to fall back into the same old, then unfortunately for you, you're going to be repeating the same old situations and cycles. Now, if push comes to shove and you get pushed and shoved and jolted into new foreign territory, yeah, there may be a certain level of confusion and disorientation that takes over because, of course, you've never been here. You've never been this version of self. You've never been in this particular lay of the land before. So there is this element of feeling confused and disoriented, but you could also choose to look at it as an exciting adventure, right? And it all comes down to our mental plane. What we focus on is what we manifest. What we tell ourselves is what we are. And I, for one, am tired of the negative narrative that the collective consciousness is sitting in. And I hope to not only see the shift, but to feel the shift here this week. So the headspace is still on focus, still on lock. There's a lot of pressure there. There's a lot of buzzing. There's a lot of headaches. There's a lot of dizziness. There's just a lot going on in that headspace. Rewiring the brain is no easy feat. The neural pathways that we are trying to create by new ideas, new thoughts, new opinions, new narratives is a hard task, a hard job. When I say to you that the accumulative pressure and headspace energy that we have been feeling since the beginning of Gemini season is going to be turned all the way up, okay, all the way up at its maximum capacity for this last day of Mercury being in his rulership, that conjunction with Jupiter at 29 degrees in Gemini energy, the last time that these guys will interact in Gemini energy for 12 years, this is a big deal, guys. We're talking about downloads. We're talking about clarity. We're talking about so much information coming from our external realm, our inner realm, from higher dimensions, from all over the place. It's all happening at once. this is going to fry our brains. Okay. So I need you to be prepared for that. I also need you to just understand that although we're receiving all of these data packets, all these downloads, all these puzzle pieces of clarity, they're not snapping together right away. So it's not like you're going to wake up tomorrow and suddenly have, this aha moment, this epiphany. It's not like, we are going to be gaining all of the answers, all of the wisdom over the course of this weekend, and then suddenly are clear-sighted and know exactly what needs to be done at the beginning of this week. It's going to take some time. But when I say to you that the pressure is overwhelming and the pressure starts building here tomorrow, mostly because there are a lot of, I guess we should talk about it. As I previously mentioned, the moon starts off in Scorpio energy here this week and takes us all the way through into the Aquarius part of the zodiac wheel at the end of the week. But moving into tomorrow, June 7th, we have so many harsh interactions popping off with the moon in Scorpio because we have some shadow work to do. We need to be triggered and activated. We need to feel the intensity of what needs to end and die so strongly that there's no ignoring it anymore. That has to happen. And of course, that is setting us up for the 8th, right? Which is when we have this Mercury-Jupiter conjunction, and then Mercury moves on into Cancer energy. That's going to be a doozy all in itself. It's going to bring in a new perspective for us to kind of formulate our feelings and our intuition around, again, moon in Scorpio, Mercury in Gemini, Jupiter in Gemini. So headspace, intuition, intellect and intuition trying to work together. The Gemini energy is mutable. It needs us to change our minds. In order to change our minds, we have to adopt a different way of thinking, a different way of seeing the world around us. That needs to happen before we can change the way that we feel about it. And that's where the Scorpio energy is pressurizing us and illuminating such intensity where the darker parts of self are concerned that many of us are going to feel very lost, very desperate, very much at the breaking point, if you will. And then what happens? Mercury moves into Cancer energy, which brings up all of the feels. Jupiter moves into Cancer energy, which you want to talk about magnification on the feels. We are moving into what is going to be a very tough love life lesson for the next year about what home feels like, what safety, security, stability feels like, what our comfort zone feels like. Because Cancer energy, although it is a cardinal water sign, it's all about the feels. It's very connected to our roots. It's very connected to our inner child, very connected to our home, to our family. Jupiter is about, growth and expansion on that particular area. And foundations and structures are rapidly changing because the deconstruction of the old version of self, and therefore the old realm and reality that old version of self is built and created, we are in deconstruction mode. And the foundation hasn't been clean swept away yet. We're not in the building era as of yet. And again, when we're talking about building, we're talking about Saturn and Neptune, technically, in the Aries energy. And again, newsflash, we are just in a dress rehearsal type of year here this year in the year of 9. Saturn and Neptune, they're going to be retrograding in that Aries energy here very shortly. And they're going to be dipping back into the Pisces energy. Okay, that we were all eager beaver ready to get out of. We're going back to that. And let me just tell you that while Jupiter is fresh in this Cancer energy and Saturn and Neptune are fresh in the Aries energy, there's going to be growing pain upon growing pain upon growing pain. And when they retrograde and kind of dip back into that Pisces energy, that's when we're going to get a little tiny bit of relief because we're going back to what is tried, tested, true, what is comfortable, what is familiar. But again, no growth happens in that comfort zone. So there's going to be a little bit of a reprieve there for us to get our shit together, for us to get our grip on what needs to kind of, stay and go because, spoiler alert, we're the problem. Meaning, everything's changing around us. We've been praying for change, but yet we're holding on to the old for dear life. And that is not serving any of us any kind of good. And so what happens? Well, we're human, so we need to learn the hard way. So we are about to learn the extreme hardest way of where it is that we have to get out of our own damn way. And that is going to be a very hard thing for a lot of people, especially seeing as this week's very specifically this week, we're in the pressure cooker energy as we get closer and closer to that solstice energy. And so choices have to be chosen Decisions have to be decided upon. Initial steps in a new path and direction need to be taken, or steps back into what is tried, tested, true, what is old, comfortable, and familiar will be taken as well. This is shit or get off the pot week. And we are definitely going to be seeing the irritability, the frustration, the fear rise up to a new level in the collective because we're on a major, major peak precipice of change. So you're going to feel that within yourself because, again, we're all dealing with topics and themes in our own individual lives that, get amplified with these particular transits. But we're also, picking up on the collective's energy as well. And the collective is about to lose their shit. And especially when you have a circus leading one of the most major countries that are, quote unquote, in a position of leadership, when you have that circus kind of leading the blind, really? Oh my goodness. And this is why I say, please step back. Please pay no mind, no attention to what's going on the greater, grander global stage, because it's all theatrics. It's all planned. It's all scripted in order to invoke a particular reaction out of you. And those that are not awake are going to be triggered and activated in the worst kinds of ways. And understand this, they affect the collective. The collective is made up of both conscious and unconscious people, sleepers and awakers, and it doesn't make neither good or bad or better than or less than. Okay, that's not what we're getting into. Jump out of the dualistic nature of this earth plane and see things from a more unified perspective, and you will start kind of seeing the change in yourself and the change in the world that has to happen. But this dualistic and polarized state of being is what has gotten us into this trouble and what will continue to keep us in this trouble until we can, again, unify. So the absolute shit show circus that will be taking place here this week on the greater, grander global stage, watch out for reactive people. We're going to talk about in just a second. I do have it on my list, but in a different kind of consideration. I'm still on the headspace. And so, crown activations, sinus pressure, the third eye is expanding, the crown is expanding. Again, Mercury and Jupiter coming together for that conjunction in the arena of the mental plane is going to absolutely fry our brains out. We are going to need a little bit of a downtime, a little bit of a reprieve in order to reset those particular neural pathways. But, we also have to talk about communication. And right now, again, the shit show of the global stage, there's a lot of debates, a lot of arguments, a lot of gossip, a lot of truths, a lot of non-truths being thrown around there. And again, all of that is very Gemini-ish. Take a good look at the leader of that country. He is a Gemini, right? And so, not that I want to get into, birth charts and everything else, but there is a reason why this is happening as of yet. There's a reason of why the script has to follow the astrological activations that, again, the higher ups and the people at the top, they use astrology, okay? Astrology is an ancient form of wisdom and knowledge. All the kings, anybody who was anybody, had their own astrologers back in the day. And astrology has been demonized over the course of these years to take that power away from people and to keep it, again, limited and sequestered to those that are at the top that want to use it for their own agendas. And so, again, not that I'm trying to talk about the gossip going on in the world on the global stage here, but you got a Gemini popping off in their birth chart with some very interesting aspects, leading the quote-unquote free world, which technically speaking should be called the unfreed world, because that is just, the American dream is just a deception and delusion all in itself. However, we can see that the arguments and the debates and the gossip and the truth bombs and the misinformation, we can see it kind of being planted in the collective, right? And then this is what I mean. Like, if you're somebody that actually believes that this shit is real and that this shit is true, man, they got you right where they wanted you, right? Because you're going to be in a reactive state. You're going to be highly stimulated. You're going to be overwhelmed. You're going to get caught up in this circus. And that's exactly where they want your energy. And so I would advise to not give it to them. That's the only way we can try to win this particular energetic and spiritual war, is not give in to the foolishness that they're creating in order to keep us distracted from doing the work. That being said, communication is all about that throat chakra. Many of us have been experiencing some very interesting sensations where the throat chakra is concerned, like I kind of mentioned last week and probably the week before that. Throat chakra activations could be you wake up with a sore throat, or you're constantly clearing your throat, or there's an itchiness in your throat. Maybe there's a bad taste in your mouth. Maybe your gums are inflamed. Maybe you're having, some teeth issues, jaw pain. Maybe there's like a weird sticky film in your mouth. Maybe there is just something going on. Why is that? Well, because again, we have some truth to speak, we have some clarity we're seeking, and all of that gets kind of junked up and gunked up in that throat chakra. And you best believe that we're going to feel, that ball that happens in your throat when you're about to cry and you're about to get all choked up and you don't want to blat. Well, that's going to happen here this week, mostly because once we dip into this Cancer energy, those feels are coming up and taking over. And it's going to be a paralyzing state for a lot of people, especially if you haven't been doing the work, especially if you don't have dominion over your heart and your head and your actions. It's going to be a shitty time for you. Now, let me just also say, you're going to want to scream. You're going to want to scream at the top of your lungs. This is what I call battle cry mode. We are about to enter into a brand new karmic chapter with that solstice. The endings and closures, the death and destruction that need to happen are happening at an accelerated rate at the end of Gemini season in order to align us with the path that we all need to be on, walking individually and collectively speaking through that solstice gateway. The battle cry has to happen. If you need to scream in your car, in a pillow, in the shower, at the top of your lungs, do it. You will feel better for it. But there is this energy that is manifesting in the throat, in the mouth, whether it is to be heard or whether it is just to scream or to tell the truth, whatever the case may be, it is going to manifest in that throat chakra. Now, I want you to pay attention to your lips, because your lips are going to feel like they're burning. Your lips are going to feel like they're on fire. If you are somebody that is constantly putting, lube lip or lip lube on your lips, you're going to need to double down on that, because your lips are going to feel like they're burning off your face. And again, we're spitting fire. That battle cry, there's a lot of tension, there's a lot of passion, there's a lot of trauma coming out of our bodies here this week, and it's got to go somewhere. And there's no better way for us to get it out than to use the vibration and frequency of our soul signature, to use voice. Like in the beginning, there was the word is a vibration, it is a sound. It is up to us to all use our individual vibrations, frequencies, and sounds in order to make things happen. So scream it out, get it out of your body. Now, that being said, what are we getting out of our body? Well, there's going to be a lot of emotion that comes up for us the minute that Mercury moves into Cancer energy, especially when Jupiter moves into Cancer energy, mostly because even if these were just, standalone transits, we're moving out of the head space, we're moving back into the heart space. And that heart space, for the most part, has been backburnered since we moved into Gemini season, just because there's so much air in the cosmos. We're lacking right now in earth, especially, and water. And so we're high up on air and fire, and that is an absolute smoke show. It is a burnout sesh. It is a campfire that is getting out of control. And so we need to bring some water back and calm this fire down and bring some stability back to this fire before it burns the whole place down. And the problem with that is that, well, first of all, it's not a problem. I probably shouldn't say that it's a problem. It's just people perceive it as a problem because people don't like to feel things. But you have to feel it in order to heal it. And even more than that, there's going to be this overwhelming wave, not just taking place in your heart chakra, not just in heart activation, which, yes, heart activations are on the list. But this is like a full body wave of unearthing repressed emotion. Now, is that going to feel good? No, it's not supposed to. But you got to feel it in order to heal it. And we're talking about repressed emotion. So we're talking about child wounds, okay? Cancer energy is that inner child. We're talking about relationship dynamics, especially with the feminine divine, so the mother role in particular. We're talking about boundaries, and boundaries have to be kind of tested and poked at in order for them to either be further strengthened and implemented and built up stronger so that you don't let these people get at you, or they need to be I'm going to say created from scratch, because many people walking around right now with zero boundaries. So this Cancer energy is going to bring everything up, and it's a water sign, so we have to expect all states of water. You could go from a very calm emotional state where you're very reflective and nostalgic. Again, just think of like, being upon a lake and seeing the reflection of nature being reflected off the surface of that glass-like lake status. You can have a little bit of wind. We are in an air season. We have to expect wind. And when wind picks up, the water gets choppy. We have to expect that there's an emotional choppiness. Now, there is going to be a time where the energies, the volume is going to be turned all the way up. And when you mix air and water, what do you get? Hurricane season. There's going to be an emotional hurricane taking over us here this week. You cannot hide from it. You can try to find shelter, but you cannot hide from it. It is something that is going to happen. It's a necessary part of the process. And this is essentially a pre-purifying, pre-cleansing ritual, if you want to look at it like that, in order for us to kind of clear out the junk and the gunk prior to walking through the solstice gateway. So we have to understand that there's going to be waves of emotion and waves of temperature fluctuation when those emotions hit. When there is a surge of repressed emotion coming to the surface of our awareness, you're going to run hot. When there is a soothing or a release or a purging of that emotion that is coming to the surface, suddenly the water settles down again and the coolness takes over your body. The up and down, back and forth with the temperature fluctuations are going to be a thing all week. Because again, when we're trying to break up energetic blockages in the physical body, the energy runs hot. And when that breakage actually gets broken up, the energy runs cool because it's running through your meridian channels with a sense of ease. And again, I feel like this is an appropriate time to kind of plug my book. If you're interested in understanding how I know all this, if you're interested in understanding how you could know all this, how to predict this, how to do something about it, how to look up a particular, let's call it ascension symptom and understand A, why it's happening, B, where it's coming from, C, what you can do about it, then you should definitely jump over to my website, grab yourself a copy of the book. This is why I created this book first and foremost, because we did essentially speed up a particular timeline that we're on. Doesn't mean we're on the best one, but we sped it up nonetheless. And so the urgency for people to understand what this ascension process is all about and understand where it comes from and understand what the purpose of it is and understand how to work with it instead of having it work against you. This is why I wrote the book. So if you're tuning in every week and you're like, damn, where does she get this stuff? Or how do you understand? Or how do you fix it? Or how do you lean into it? How do you do the work? Buy the book. Start there. Buy the book. Anywho, when we dive into this Cancer energy, not only are our emotions going to be washing over us and coming to the forefront of our awareness, but our intuition is getting an upgrade as well. When we move into a water sign or a water season, such as Cancer, and of course, Scorpio and Pisces included in that, that is when we are essentially rewiring our, I want to call it the central nervous system, but realistically speaking, that's connected more to air energy. And that's why in Gemini season, like we're currently in, there's been major upgrades, major jolts, major burnouts of the central nervous system. The emotional system, yes, is intricately intertwined with the central nervous system, but it's its own system. It's its own process. And so intuition and emotions go hand in hand. Intuition and the central nervous system goes hand in hand. And so we are getting emotional and intuitive upgrades the minute that we move into this Cancer energy, especially Jupiter in Cancer, because Jupiter magnifies everything. He turns the volume all the way up on everything. And the tough love life lessons that we've previously gone through suddenly get restructured in a way that helps support us. And thus, we are going to be building a new emotional, intuitive foundation and structure within ourselves, again, Cancer energy, in order for us to feel stabilized and comfortable operating in. But it's not going to happen overnight. And because we are in the midst of our nervous system getting zapped and upgraded due to all the air energy, and now we're bringing the emotional and intuitive system online for an upgrade, we are going to feel hella burnt out. It's going to feel like your mind is melting, okay? And you're going to be melting into your emotional realm. It does kind of feel initially like burnout. It does kind of feel like you check out, like you kind of move into a daze, if you will. That's a necessary part of the realignment, recalibration process. It's not going to last forever, but we're definitely going to be thrown into that dazed, confused state here this week because our mental planes are burning out from the amount of electricity that we've been harnessing in our physical forms throughout the course of Gemini season. And of course, we're bringing water back into the elemental energy profile. And I just want to say this, when a lightning bolt hits a body of water, what happens? Well, you can get electrocuted. And this is kind of the feeling that I'm trying to describe here, is that you could definitely feel like you got an extra zap from the cosmos and you could be mentally and emotionally just burnt. Okay, so pay attention to that. Now, things are getting kind of, I'm going to say, difficult. And when things are difficult and we're trying to hold hope and we're trying to hold on to faith and we're trying to, receive the information and make sense of the information, what happens? We get squinty in our eyes. But even more than that, this week, it's almost as if the matrix creators of this simulation decide, hey, we should turn the volume up on all the colors in the world. And they're going to amp that volume switch up. So things are going to appear much brighter, much more vibrant than they have in the recent of weeks. And that can be very overstimulating to our sensory experience. And so I'm going to invoke Corey Hart, and maybe we should be wearing our sunglasses at night and maybe even wearing them indoors. Okay, so if you find that your eyes are just way too sensitive, either out in the world or just in your house or whatever, put them sunglasses on, okay? We have to soothe where we can soothe. We have to correct where we can correct. And although it's not going to make the sensation go away right away, we can provide a little bit of comfort to the physical body while we're going through these adjustments. So when we're talking about providing ourselves comfort, that's very Cancerian energy. We need to provide ourselves with nourishment, with nurturing, with comfort, with stability. We have to make ourselves feel safe. And so basically what we're getting into is that this week is going to need to double down on nervous system regulation. We are going to be so hypersensitive, so triggered, so activated that it's going to be sensory overload with, all of the senses. The sunglasses should help the eye sensory experience. You may find that you can't be around loud noises, or you have to turn the TV off, or that the noises are so overstimulating that you may have a freak out. You have to create a space for yourself to the best of your ability that's going to minimize the stimulation. So again, we're just going to feel all of our senses be jacked up. And when we talk about senses, I think we should also just, remind you that Venus is in her rulership in Taurus energy, which is a sensory type of placement. We are in the physical body. We're hella reliant on our physical senses in order to let us know how we're actually feeling in the present moment and feeling about some of the situations and circumstances that we're trying to decide and choose from. Again, mental energy, Gemini energy, division, polarization. We have choices to choose from. We have decisions to decide upon. We have new paths and directions that we have to choose from, or we have to settle for what it is that we've already got and continue doing what it is that we've been doing. The choice is yours. But here's the thing about sensory overload is that yes, our emotions and our intuition going through a major upgrade, so we're going to be jacked up in that way. Yeah, we're hypersensitive to the sensory experience of being in a physical form. So yeah, that's going to be overwhelming. But the energy is going to be overwhelming to the point where you're not going to know what it is that you're actually feeling. Meaning, is this excitement? Is this anxiety? Is this me being manic? Is this me being jittery? Is this nervousness? Is this anticipation? Is this aggression? Is this insecurity? What is this? You're not going to know. There's just going to be so much energy floating through you that you're not going to be able to pinpoint. And that's the problem of being in Gemini season, is that we want to logically and practically think through all the things that we're feeling. You can't think through feelings. You have to feel through feelings. So the overwhelming intellectual part of your brain trying to make sense of all the things that don't make sense, you again are going against the flow of your own energy. Snap out of it, step back from it, surrender from it. It does not need you to put a label on everything. It does not need you to make sense of everything. It needs you to feel in the moment. We have to feel it in order to heal it. I cannot repeat that enough. Now, midweek, we're going to have this full moon in Sagittarius. So typically speaking, full moon, going to fully illuminate our emotions, fully illuminate new information, new situations, new circumstances, and it's going to bring our emotions to the surface of our awareness for a breakdown purge. That's what a full moon is all about. We have to purge, we have to release, we have to let things go. And in Sagittarius energy, this is about the changing of our belief system, the change of our truth, the change of our path, the change of our direction. May I also just remind you, we are in a major, major, major crossroads point here this week. And so with that, you may find that you are so pressurized in the choices and decisions that you have to be, choosing and deciding upon, that you may find that logically and practically, one thing makes a lot of sense. But what you're actually leaning towards is something that makes no sense whatsoever, but it feels right. And so Sagittarius energy encourages us to take a leap of faith, to push yourself out of the comfort zone and into new territory, even though it's unfamiliar, to put yourself in a situation to rise up, rise above that rigid ass thinking that you've been stuck in, that negative ass narrative that you've been stuck in, and choose differently. Do better. There's a deeper meaning, a deeper purpose for all of the struggle in which each and every single one of us is going through and has already lived through. And the Sagittarius energy wants to bring that deeper meaning, bring that deeper purpose full circle, and show you where it is that you got to get out of your own damn way. This is when the horizon suddenly expands and gets revealed to you. And the horizon that is about to be revealed to you is far greater, far more opportunistic than the horizon in which you've been focused on. And again, that comes down to the logical, practical intellect of Gemini season needing to base everything off of what is physically in this realm and in your face versus the faith, the hopes, the dreams that you have to be anchored into in order to understand that anything is possible. That is the Sagittarius energy. But you cannot know something and believe something at the exact same time. Okay? The Gemini energy wants receipts, wants data, wants proof, wants statistics in order to prove what you know. The Sagittarius energy doesn't need any of that, because as long as you have faith, as long as you have a vision, as long as you have a dream, then it doesn't matter what your physical circumstances dictate to you, you can overcome it. And this is why we're in a very, very pressurized crossroads system here right now. So just to kind of feed off of some of the Ascension symptoms that we could likely experience just specifically due to the full moon in Sagittarius, Charlie horses, leg cramps, tripping over your own damn self, your own feet. When I say to you, pay very close attention, stay as present as you possibly can, because you could actually put yourself in some silly situations that lead to some accidents that are going to take you out of the game and set you back, when technically speaking, it's your own damn fault for not really, being in alignment anyways. When I say to you that the headspace, because we're in Gemini season, the headspace is actually disembodied from the physical form right now. Your headspace is somewhere else. You're not in the present moment. You're not thinking clearly. You're not seeing clearly. Your actions are not aligned with what your thoughts are. And when that happens, you can create a mess for yourself. That's where accidents take place, because Sagittarius rules over the thighs. That's why I'm saying there could be tremors or leg cramps or Charlie horses or whatever. But we're talking from the waist down. Why? Because we're about to embark on a new path, and many of us have cold feet about it. Many of us are storing a lot of pain, trauma, and fear in our kneecaps. Many of us are wanting to take action, make moves, wanting to embark on a new path, new direction without the clarity on how to do so. And even more than that, yes, I know that we're talking about, midweek when the full moon in Sag takes place, but immediately after the full moon in Sag takes place, the moon shifts into Capricorn energy, and that's going to feel like we hit a brick wall. Not only that, it's going to feel like we jumped out of a plane without a parachute and we hit a multitude of brick walls on the way down, splatting on the earth. Now, does that feel good? No, not supposed to. But when I say to you that when the moon shifts into Cancer energy and then suddenly we have all of these aches and pains going on in our physical body, it's because Capricorn energy rules over the skeletal structure. That's why we're going to have popping and clicking in our joints. You could, if you're not careful and put yourself in a situation to have a silly little accident, this could mean broken bones, twisted ankles. This could mean that you're tripping over yourself and therefore, hurting yourself all in the same. When the moon shifts into Capricorn energy, not only is there a high probability that your full body is going to be in aches and pains because of the changes going on in essentially your energetic body, therefore your DNA, therefore penetrating the cellular memory of the physical structure. You're also going to realize where it is that the structures and foundations in your physical realm are trapping you, are holding you back, are limiting you, are restricting you. Again, reminder, when the moon is in Capricorn, we become very aware of the problematic situations and circumstances that we are currently in that are preventing us from moving on and moving forward. And then when the moon shifts into Aquarius energy, we move into problem solving mode on how we're going to free ourselves and liberate ourselves from some of these restrictions. And so this is the week that we have coming at us, and we are going to feel it in the physical form. So pay attention to your joints, pay attention to the bones. This is time to slow your ass down, to become more present, more aware in your physical body so that you don't trip over your own damn feet and create a little bit of a situation that you don't need to be in. Okay. When the moon moves into this Capricorn energy, shortly after the full moon pops off, you're going to have a huge amount of pressure in your lower back. It's going to feel like your back is broken for I'm going to call it a temporary window of time. However, if you are refusing to adapt, refusing to be flexible, refusing to let go, to detach from people, places, and things, if you're refusing to do that, the pain that you feel in your lower back is going to be prolonged. If you're able to go with the flow, if you're able to switch things up, be flexible and adapt, you're not going to have as many days with this pain in your lower back. The lower back is where the survival programming is alive and well. We're trying to flip the script on that here in Gemini season. We have to be open, we have to be aware, we have to be available to make those particular changes. The foundation and structure that the Capricorn energy wants us to lean into is preventing us from making said changes. So, as you can hear the dog in the background, this is a validation that we got to, again, get out of our own damn way. Now, when I say get out of your own damn way, get out of your head. Get out of your head. Get back into your body. There's going to be a mental and emotional tug of war here this week, and it would be very, very highly recommended that you stay present enough, aware enough on who is trying to dominate power, the ego programming or the higher self, the old emotional pain and trauma or the new emotional foundation that you're trying to build. Now, with this destabilization, we are going to be hungry and thirsty for clarity, for change. So we have to expect that the hunger is going to pop off. We have to expect that the thirst is going to increase. We are in an air season. Yes, when we dip into Cancer energy and we add a little bit more water to the elemental energy profile, we are going to feel soothed in that way, but we're not going to feel refreshed. Right? We can soothe the symptoms down, but we're not going to feel refreshed and refueled. That's going to take a little bit more time. But the stomach ache is definitely going to be a thing. First of all, we have a full moon kind of, destabilizing the emotions for them to come to the surface of our awareness. There's going to be a lot of anxiety, a lot of angst, a lot of worry that pops off here this week. Cancer energy has a huge impact on our digestive system, period. And I would say that the bubble gut release is going to be full stop, full circle here under the full moon. So again, when your mental plane is consumed with anxiety and worry and fear, you're going to feel that in your gut. Let your gut be an indicator of where your mind is at and vice versa, and make the proper adjustments. What I would also want to say is that, we're hella defensive when we move into this Cancer energy. And that could definitely pose a problem, seeing as the Cancer energy, A, is very reactive, very defensive, but also B, very attached to the past. And so we're on the peak precipice right now of choosing this new version of self, choosing a new path, choosing a new direction, that this Cancer energy could actually work against us if we're not careful and keep us stuck in the past. Keep us repeating the same patterns and behaviors, keep us building up the boundaries, not to keep us safe, but to keep us from moving on and moving forward. So we have to call ourselves out on our own shit. We have to be accountable and responsible for our own doing. This is why I say bring yourself back into the body, because you're going to need a certain level of awareness, listening to the way that your body's reacting to some of the things that you're thinking about. You're going to need that level of intelligence in order to navigate the choices, the path, the direction that you're essentially choosing here this week, that we will be formally locking into a soul contract as we move through the solstice gateway. So that is your warning. The last thing that I want to leave you with is, of course, there's going to be a major change in our sleep and in our dreamscape. There always is when we have major transits taking place. And when I say to you that physically speaking, the sleep is going to be deep when you're having it, but interrupted throughout the night, but also physically sweating to death, but also having dreamscapes of horrific, traumatic, emotionally triggering events. All of this is designed in order for you to bring a new level of awareness to the repressed emotions that need to come to the surface in order to be released and purged under this full moon, to get it out of our body, out of our head space, out of our heart space, prior to moving through that solstice gateway. So pay attention to what is going on. The dreams are going to be hella cryptic, even though they're going to be very emotionally detrimental. Pay attention to that. Lean into the discomfort. Lean into the feelings. You got to feel it in order to heal it. So guys, I thank you so much for tuning in. I thank you so much for showing up, not just for me, but for yourself. I hope that you do the work. I hope that you take the time to get those resources, as in the energy guides, the moon guides, in front of you, available to you, so that you can kind of align with the energy that's going to be popping off here this week and kind of keep the upper hand over it. We definitely want it working for us instead of against us. But again, you gotta do the work. I wish you the greatest week of ease and grace that you could possibly have. And I always say things like that when we are about to enter into some choppy waters, and this week is no different. So please, please, please stand strong. Please, please, please have a new level of awareness about yourself. Fight the good fight and come out on the other end as the best version of self. Thank you for tuning in. I send you nothing but love, and we'll talk to you soon.